is 5 o'clock. I'll call the Finance and Personnel Committee to order. We'll begin with the roll. All right, it is 5 o'clock. I'll call the Finance and Personnel Committee to order. We'll begin with the roll. Alder Lefebvre? Here. Alder Decker?
Here.
Alder Perella?
Here.
Alder Felde? Do we have anybody online? Okay. Alder Felde is unexcused. Mitchell is here. We have a quorum. Will you all please join me in the pledge?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, per usual, barring any objections, we'll jump over the introductions. And seeing none, move on to item number 5, which is approval of the minutes from the September 23rd meeting. It has been a while. Any discussion on those minutes? If not, we'd be looking for a motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second, then seeing no discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Chair votes aye. The ayes have it and the motion passes. Takes us into item number 6, which is RO number 55 of 2425, submitting a claim from Jenny Stephen Pierce for alleged damages to a vehicle when a tree fell on it.
This is here for filing it as a claim that was denied.
Questions or comments on this one? If not, we'd be looking for that motion to file.
I make a motion to file.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second, then seeing no discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Chair votes aye. The ayes have it and the motion passes. Takes us right into item number 7, and assuming there's no objection from committee, we'll take 7 and 8 together. Those are ROs number 63 of 2425 and RO number 64 of 2425, pursuant to Sheboygan Municipal Code 2-912 sub B, which requires the comptroller to file with the Common Council not less than monthly a list of claims approved showing the date paid, the name of the claimant, the purpose, and the amount. The attached list of paid vouchers for July 2024 and August 2024 provided.
Good evening. Unless there's any questions, we're just looking to file these.
Any questions or comments on these lists? If not, we'd be looking for that motion to file.
I make a motion to file.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Seeing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Chair votes aye. The ayes have it and the motion passes. Items number 7 and 8 are filed. Takes us into item number 9, a little bit of light reading. Resolution number 80 of 2425, a resolution approving a financial policy handbook.
Good evening. You may remember the email I sent out several weeks ago giving a bit of extra time to review this document. I know a lot is going on with budget as well, so I do appreciate if you did take the time. Like I mentioned in that email, there are significant changes, so this is considered a complete rewrite, which is why there's not a redlined version within your packet. I'm happy to answer any questions, but I also am hoping that there would be an amendment if the committee is acceptable to that, which would be the language that I have provided, which adds under the policy section of unassigned fund balance that we do in order to maintain sufficient reserves for claim expenditures, the city shall maintain a minimum of 1.5 times the average annual claim amount as unrestricted fund balance within the workers' compensation fund and health insurance fund. Why I'm hoping that is added is I was under the impression that there was a different policy or ordinance that addressed that specifically. And once I had a chance to review, I do not see that anywhere. So I would like to make sure that is included within the policies as well. Happy to answer any questions that the committee may have regarding the whole document, but I was not planning to go line by line or section by section.
To everybody's disappointment if we don't get to read it all out loud right now. Alder Perella?
Yeah, thank you for not going line by line. I really appreciate that. So there is the competitive quotations, which are the bids, right?
Correct.
So are they required, it looks like it is going to be required for purchases as low as 5,000. which was new to me. Is that different than before?
That in particular is not different from before, but it's putting it into a bit of different language. What it's always been is that if you're purchasing something, you should really look for the best pricing because we are using taxpayer dollars, but this is putting it into terms that really makes that clear that if you are purchasing something, you should be at least looking in multiple sources for quotes.
So that does not mean mandatory bids.
Correct. Quotations would be acceptable. So if I'm looking at, let's say, printer paper, something where I just need a couple boxes of printer paper, and if it's not through a contract or if Bernie, who's our purchasing agent, if he's not buying paper for the whole city, I could get a quote or go online and compare paper between Amazon, Office Max, and Business Supply or something along those lines. So it's really just making sure that we're doing the best and getting the most bang for our buck with the taxpayer dollars. But it would not be sealed bids or as formal of a process that is required when it's like a public works type project with public construction.
So then why the language is the same? Basically, I'm trying to understand the difference between, in addition to the approval by you as a director of finance and you and the city administrator for the $50,000 and more, what's the difference? I don't see anywhere specified that you need bids. So for example, in up to $4,999.99, you don't need any of that. But from $5,000 to $24,999.99, then you need the quotations, the competitive quotations. Are these bids or not? No, you explained they are not.
I would say they're still quotes. So it would not be the competitive bid process where it's a sealed envelope at a certain time. It's really requiring the department heads or supervisors, who's ever doing that purchase, to get several quotes. The only difference between, let's say, the up to $4,999.99, the $5,000 to $25,000, that is required to go through my approval, but that is built into our accounting system. Yeah. So it's making sure that budgets are kept within the approved budget from the council, et cetera. Once it gets to that $25,000 mark, Administrator Bradley should be looking at those. It also just makes sure that if I have a suspicion of something, where I can ask for those quotations to make sure people are following the policy.
But then, besides those approvals, there is no bids requiring, even for $50,000 or more. I don't see anywhere where those are mandatory. Aren't they mandatory after a certain threshold? Bids.
I would say bids are more related to, and Chuck or Casey can jump in. I would say bids are typically more restricted to that public construction type of project, where we have state statute that overrides any policy that we would have. That closed documentation, those pre-bid meetings, all that relates to the public construction piece. So if it doesn't fall into the public construction piece, which I will say is somewhat gray at times of what falls into that, I like to take a little bit more of a conservative approach on like doing it more than maybe some would, because I don't want to ever get caught not following that state statute. But generally speaking, if it's not under that public construction type of requirement by state statute, it'd be proposals and quotations.
Thank you so much for clarifying that. I have one more question, but I can leave space to others first.
Go ahead.
Okay, so there is the emergency purchasing. So it looks like that in that case, you and or the city administrator can decide to proceed with an emergency purchasing, which makes absolute sense for any amount. But then shouldn't we, let's say, for example, there is an emergency that you decide to spend $50,000. Then when will the Common Council be informed about that?
Yes, so you may have remembered there were actually several times where there were emergency expenditures, and after the fact, a document was brought forward from council. For example, there was the pipe burst at the police department, and we had significant damage from the water. We went ahead, we did those. We did the fix in order to make sure that, the damage did not continue to get worse, but we did bring that over to council, mostly because it was it was beyond the terms of the budget dollars. So it was going to put them over budget in their department, so we brought it forward to council. I think in the circumstance of when a $50,000 item would more than likely come to council because it's probably going to push it over the budget. Another instance was when there was that large hole under the, there was a kind of like a sinkhole that needed to be fixed immediately. That also got brought forward after the fact because, again, it was a safety issue. So I would say, generally speaking, that would come mostly if it's a budgetary type constraint that leads to us being over budget.
Otherwise, it will not.
Typically, I would think not. It really is just allowing a person or department head to go out and call if it's a disaster that needs immediate help, they can call the first electrician and get help, or the first plumber, whatever it may be, where it's considered a true emergent situation. They don't have to call 3 plumbers to make sure that they get but generally speaking, we do have items in the budget for building maintenance and repair and things like that. So it would just have to be documented by the department head, and then it would have to be forwarded to myself to make sure that I'm recording it for audit purposes of the requirement of the emergency purchasing section of the policy.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on this one? Alder Barella?
Thank you. Just a follow-up on that. So the thing I don't understand is, with $50,000 or more, the Common Council has to pre-approve, right? So shouldn't we add a language to reflect that if it is an emergency of $50,000 and more, mandatorily the Common Council should be informed about that?
I feel that would be acceptable.
I wonder because the Common Council is called to approve if a purchase is above $50,000. So if that happens on the basis of an emergency, which is 100% understandable, but then the Common Council should still be aware of it, regardless, even after the fact. So, and I didn't see any language.
Sure. So Attorney Adams did just bring up that it would be on that voucher list that the Deputy Finance Director brings forward each time. So it would be in a list that you could see. However, if you want it to be more clearly stated that you be notified, I think that would be acceptable language to add. It does not occur very frequently.
Right.
And even, excuse me, even the police department, when the pipe bursting happened, it was under the $50,000 to repair it. So I would say, I think the road where we had to repair the main underneath the road right away, that was the only one that was over the 50,000 that I can come up with off the top of my head.
Right. Yeah, I'm thinking that, and this is to my colleagues, I would like to have your feedback on that. I think we could add that type of language. I mean, briefly, it's not a big deal. Even better if it doesn't happen that often.
Alder Decker?
I guess my comment on that would be that I would think more often, just about every time we go over that $50,000, it's gonna affect someone's budget, and they're gonna have to come to the council anyways to make that adjustment. So that's why that's my thoughts on it. That I can't see too many of what instances where we exceed $50,000 where we're not gonna bust somebody's budget somehow. Something's going to be, and they're going to have to come to council anyway. So this is just kind of an added thing that really doesn't, I don't know.
And I will say, if I can, I will agree with Alder Decker's stance on that, even considering we had to bring forward the $20,000-ish repair for the police department because budgets they don't have a bunch of money just sitting there waiting for an emergency. They're typically line items that are annually used. So an emergent situation is often putting us over that threshold that we would need to come ask for a budget amendment. But I am happy to report it either way.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah, and just adding on to that, I guess I wouldn't see any harm having language like that in the policy, since for the most part they are going to be coming to us anyway, and it's not putting any major burden on anybody by making sure that they always are coming to council. to get that written in as clear as possible of a way so that the language does reflect exactly what the actual desire is. I'd maybe encourage us to look at amending on the floor at council for that one.
Yeah, I agree with that because may I?
Yeah.
Although it is true what you guys said, but at the same time, I mean, the council still, even when it is already included in the budget, the council has to approve if it is 50,000 or more. So for me, that is the same situation. That's the same scenario, basically. So if you guys agree, I would go for that. If we have to discuss it at the common council, that's fine.
Okay.
And I'm happy to provide some language that I think would make it very clear for the policy and have it for council next week.
I appreciate that.
That'd be perfect. Any other questions or comments on this one?
I just want to say that anything that leans towards, real clarity and just crystal clear, explanations of what, money is being transferred it's a positive thing. So yes, we should definitely put that in there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Then just adding on my own commentary from reading through this, compliments to Director Krieger and her staff and everybody who worked on this. It seems like it must have been quite the process, but it's thorough. It clearly reads as though it was well thought out. So, my kudos.
Thank you.
With that, we would be looking for a motion to approve.
Yes, so I make a motion. Should we include the fact that the Common Council, we recommend conditional to the Common Council to add additional language on that?
You have to put the language in, actually, so they'll have to put it in, we'll have to put that in at council.
I would recommend moving it forward if that's the desire, move it forward with that amendment, and that'll be in the one that goes as amended to the council. And then you also have this other change because we haven't voted on that yet either. So you want to consider if you want to approve both amendments, and then we'll have the language updated for Monday's meeting of council.
But in that case, we need a language already now for the amendments.
Yeah, we've kind of got, and we can amend it if you guys don't like what we propose. We can amend that
okay.
Monday
And then
night.
including language regarding emergency purchase notification or something
Yep.
like that.
Right, so basically you
Yeah.
would propose the amendment, the language for the amendment to the Common Council next time, but for now, we do recommend it just with this amendment that you provided.
Yep, and you can do it either way.
Either way, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
Let's go with
because then
that.
it'll be final once you adopt it at council.
thank you.
Yep.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
All right, so I can proceed.
Floor first too, so.
Right, so just the motion to approve.
Yes.
Approve first.
Yeah, okay. So I make a motion to approve.
Second?
All right, we have a motion and a second. Do we have any further motions?
No.
Yes, I make a motion to recommend the financial policy handbook to council with the amendment adding the following language under the policy of unassigned fund balance. In order to maintain sufficient reserves for claim expenditures, the city shall maintain a minimum of 1.5 times the average annual claim amount as unrestricted fund balance within the workers' compensation fund and health insurance fund.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second on amendment. Do we have any discussion on the amendment portion? Seeing none, and again, this vote is in favor of the amendment to the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Chair votes aye. The ayes have it, and the motion passes. Takes us back to the main motion as amended. Do we have any discussion on that? If not, we'd be looking. We already have the motions, so
Don't you need one more motion for the language on the emergency use? We need to do one more amendment.
So Administrator Bradley's suggesting you do another amendment to say that you would like the appropriate
Okay.
emergency purchasing notification language added to
Okay.
the policy.
would it suffice if I asked if we could count it as a friendly amendment if it is a motion to recommend the resolution as amended with a recommendation that the Common Council accepts the amendment brought forth during their meeting to add that notification requirement.
Since you don't have the specific language, probably the best way to do it is to approve it with direction, approve it as you've amended it with direction to the finance director to
Right.
add the additional language discussed
Yeah.
in the meeting with
I agree
regard
with
to
that.
the $50,000.
Yeah.
Okay. I can do that.
So does she have to make a motion then?
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember if we do friendly amendments or if I'm going way back to before that. Fair enough. Would you accept that as a friendly amendment to your original motion?
Okay. So, but I make a motion for a friendly amendment or not?
Just a yes works.
Just,
No. Okay, so I'm sorry, I don't follow.
Just accepting that, so a yes. That's
say yes.
accepting that as the friendly amendment
you're
works.
okay with that being on the amendment?
Okay, yes. I move to approve that amendment, that friendly amendment.
We'll take that. Elder Decker, any
I will
objection?
second,
Okay.
my
Fair
second
enough.
is also,
All right, now we are back to the point that we have the full amendment with recommendation on the floor. If there is no further discussion, all in favor of approval?
aye.
All opposed? Chair votes aye. The ayes have it, and the motion passes. The amended resolution with recommendation is recommended. Which takes us right into item number 10, which will go more smoothly. It is resolution number 83 of 2425, a resolution authorizing a contract between the City of Sheboygan and Tyler Technologies for purchase and implementation of enterprise permitting and licensing, and authorizing an amendment to the 2024 budget.
Thank you. I'll be speaking on this one as well. This is brought forward after getting a few demos regarding this product and the capabilities that it will allow for the planning staff in particular. It will add an online component for all building inspection permits where a contractor or a homeowner can go online and apply for the permit. They can pay for the permit. They can follow through the process where it shows if it's in approval stage with somebody or if it's in review at planning commission, things like that. You can build the program to really be user-friendly in that sense and giving more information to the public especially. It also has a significant impact on the workers in planning department. Building inspections currently, for example, goes out with a camera, either on their phone or an actual camera to take pictures of things out in the field. This app will actually allow it to be taken right from their iPad and attaches to a permit. They currently come back to the office, put the camera, plug it in the computer, download it to the computer, upload it back to Munis. So it's taking out a lot of that duplicate steps. In addition, it will allow for inspectors to tie their calendar right to the online inspection scheduling section for contractors or homeowners as well. So instead of having to wait for an inspector to get back into the office, answer the phone or answer their emails to schedule those appointments for inspections, it will allow homeowners and contractors to do that right away online, which allows for ease of access, but also takes some of the burden off of the inspectors. In addition, there is a lot of automatic process that can be handled in here. The system can be built so that after, let's say, 30 days of a permit, if it's about to expire, it can remind homeowners or contractors of that impending expiration so that they can make sure to follow up and get the appropriate inspections. It has a lot of those capabilities for automatic notification, which is really a benefit, again, so that we don't have to have staff time calling individuals. It does allow us to get more done throughout the day. So this is, as all of you know, there are significant buildings and development that are coming to the city. So we still have the same amount of staff. So this is hopefully allowing the staff to become more efficient and allowing more access to the public.
Will this be replacing any current pieces of software that the city is using?
So currently, the city uses the Tyler product that is built within our normal financial module, but it does not have substantial capabilities within that module. So this is the bigger and better product that Tyler has compared to what we're using. I will also mention, so that I do not forget, that it has a licensing component, which if we would like to look at how the clerks are doing the license, it could potentially replace the AS400 that was already kind of shut down for the clerk side. And then we also are looking at replacing a software and doing special events permits also in this software. So there's multiple things that we are hoping to reduce the burden on employees and have it all come into one software where we master it and make it work really well for everybody.
Okay. Thank you. Questions or comments on this one? Alder Perrella?
Thank you. So what is the amount? I'm not sure I understand I can see the pro forma, the quotation here, but I don't understand the actual amount.
Sure. So there are fees that are required for both implementation, which is under the professional services section of the quote. So it is based on actual time. That is, it's like an up to dollar amount or up to number of hours amount. So under the professional services, the $190,000, that is for implementation costs. It is a substantial amount of time that will be utilized both from our staff, but also Tyler's staff to get this working to exactly how we want it. It's setting up every single permit, every single workflow within the system, which is that big. That's why the number is so high. The top part where it has Tyler SaaS and related services, there are certain annual fees in order to use that. This number is again an up to amount. You can see I have 16 users right now in the system for the licensing users, and then there's also the foundation. So it's really a $16,000 annual for the license. There are a couple components that are in addition to that above that item where it's actually working with the other systems. So it's an annual cost of about the $78,984. But again, that's reducing significant staff time, and we're hoping that that allows us to not add additional staff in the future.
So what is the dollar amount that we are talking about total today?
Sure. So on the second page of the resolution is the exact dollar amount. It's about $270,000, and that is including both the annual costs and the implementation.
I don't see that total. I'm so sorry. I don't see that total.
It's on page 105 of the packet, if you happen to have that up. Or it's right before the quote starts.
69,934.
Oh, 269. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on this one? If not, we'd be looking for that motion to approve.
I have just one quick question about
Go ahead.
that. So it's a huge chunk. So this was not included in the budget for 2024.
Correct.
And why is that?
It was not on the table even being discussed until after 2024 budget was approved. It takes about a year to actually implement this product because it is such a robust program. So I have it that 2024 budget will include it. We wanted to make sure we started right away. Tyler, who would of course help us with the implementation, has an opening November 18th, which is why I didn't wait till 2025 budget.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
If there's no further discussion, then we would be looking for that motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Chair votes aye. The ayes have it, and the motion passes. That one is approved. Takes us into item number 11, which is RO number 80, or resolution number 89 of 2425. resolution adopting certain changes to the city's medical benefits plan and dental benefit plan effective for calendar year 2025 coverage, and establishing monthly premium equivalent rates effective for January 2025 coverage and thereafter.
Good afternoon. So before you have Resolution 89-24-25 for the insurance premiums for 2025. We had discussed this at one point, I believe, during council, where originally we were looking at 18% increases. We had negotiated and made some changes to the plans and got them down to 6% increases. So those premiums are before you for health, dental today for approval.
Questions or comments on this one? If not, we would be looking for that motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Seeing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Chair votes aye. The ayes have it, and the motion passes. That one is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is item 12, which is resolution number 91 of 2425, resolution authorizing an amendment to the 2024 budget, reflecting a table of organization change for the police department and information technology department.
I'm back. So the item before you is the movement of one position from the police department, which was the communications electronics technician. As you know, the former person, or the person who formerly held that role, is now the IT director. So there's been discussions internally with police department and IT department, in addition to city administration and HR, that it's the appropriate time to move that position under IT. It'll allow for better collaboration within the IT department, have more support for that individual, but making sure that the police department, fire department are still getting that support that they need with the communications technology.
Questions or comments? Alder Decker.
I applaud this. This is a good step forward. I think that this is something that's been needed for a while to be able to do this, and I'm glad that we have the personnel in place to be able to make this change.
Thank you. Any other discussion? If not, I'll say I concur and ask for a motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Chair votes aye. The ayes have it, and the motion passes. That one is approved. Next up is item number 13, which was resolution number 94 of 2425, a resolution authorizing the submittal of a substantial amendment to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development Community Development Block Grant Program for the 2024 Annual Action Plan.
All right, well, good evening. Sorry Diane wasn't able to be here tonight, so I'm kind of pitch hitting for her, but essentially the plan that we're asking to be amended is to shift some money from low-income housing into, I believe that's parks. Reason being, with the current price of housing, our partners in the community are not able to do projects with the available funding. We only have about $200,000 here that we're working with. Our goal was to help 6 families get into that housing, and that money's not enough. It sounds like we need to subsidize about 75%. And it puts us in a situation, because of the current housing market, that we're just saddling folks with an unneeded amount of debt to even get them into the home. So we're going to, obviously in future plans, we'll look at bringing this back once we get a better supply of housing and that affordability rate comes down. But in the market right now, working with our community partners, we're not able to do the projects that we need to do, and we're not able to fund them to get that low-income population into the housing that this money was set aside for. So instead of having it turned back and not used, we're going to look at some projects in parks areas that fall within the census tracts. That was just updated. So for the next 5 years, we've got some census tracts that are dedicated that we can use this park funding to help make sure that those services, those dollars are still going into the dedicated community that they're for.
Questions or comments? Alder Perella.
So the CDBG fund, these CDBG funds have to be used by when? By the end of this year?
I believe so. That's, when I talked with Diane this morning, it sounded like she needs to get those funds committed. And she was looking at purchasing equipment and things like that in those newly outlined census tract areas that those parks fall into.
I guess I have one follow-up, two questions. One follow-up question is, so we typically, as you well know, disburse some of this grant to all the local nonprofits that work with LMI on different levels, with different programs and so on. And there are several of them, and we have done that. So why have we not thought of this amount going to those? To used at that time of disbursement with many good nonprofits that work on LMI.
So this is that funding that's dedicated to it? You want to? Yeah, so this is specifically just a housing fund. That's not the dollars, that doesn't affect those dollars that are already going there. And
I can hop in. I know a little bit about this now since I started here. So there's a couple different things restrictions that are put on these funds. So this was specifically allocated for down payment assistance. We cannot give it to non-for-profits because we have a percentage allocation restriction per year on those funds, which we do max out every year. But then there's also a cash on hand restriction. So we need to use these funds right away so that we don't have to give them back to the federal government HUD because that ends, or that's looked at annually in like January timeframe. So if we have too much of HUD's money on hand, we have to give it back. So this is a way for us to spend those dollars in an allowable manner within that timeframe.
Yeah, so just for me to understand, basically these were restricted exactly for building.
So
for affordable housing,
So this initially was within the plan for down payment assistance. I do remember, this was prior to my time here, but I have helped with some of the auditing of these dollars already. There was actually down payment assistance also using COVID money that was through HUD, and actually we had to reallocate that as well because we just didn't have people applying for it either. So I think to Casey's, or Administrator Bradley's point with it's not getting enough money to the people to allow them to buy the house because they need a larger amount, but they're also falling into, there's often just people not applying for it, and that could be a big part of that reason.
And that was my additional question. So have we received, I understand the housing prices and everything, however, this could be definitively 2 down payment for a house. So why we didn't receive applications?
I have no specifics on if we received any applications or if they didn't qualify or anything like that. That would be a question I can follow up with Diane on. However, I do remember from the COVID funding, we had worked with a partner in the community to try and get those dollars out, and they ended up paying us that money back because they were not having individuals in the community even applying for it.
Right. Yeah, I would be curious to know, because this is the idea that, for example, there are 2 households out there that would enjoy to have this, having the down payment. This could be a very decent down payment, or 2 or 3 down payments for a house. So I wonder how that, how do we make that clear, how we disseminate that information, and how, if we received any applications, perhaps they were not eligible. I don't know, but I would be curious to know about that.
So not quite that simplistic. One of the big issues, and Diane and I kind of had this conversation earlier today, yes, it helps, but it's still debt against the property. So the folks are still saddled with that debt. It's not free money, so it has to be paid back. And that's one of the concerns, is that, we're seeing a lot of the population, kind of cycles through houses more frequently. So to get somebody into a house and committed to a 30-year loan that, we're funding upwards of 75% through this program, they're not able to take on that debt or that commitment. And then on top of that, we also have to go through, and there's another amount of funding that has to be expended to go through and make sure that we're actually putting money down on a house that is safe. So you've got to go through and do all the lead and the asbestos and all that. So there's a number of issues on top of applying for it that, they're taking on some commitments that, they might not necessarily be comfortable with either.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other discussion on this item? If not, we'd be looking for a motion to approve.
Yes, I make a motion to approve.
Second?
All right, we have a motion and a second, then seeing no further discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Chair votes aye. The ayes have it. The motion passes. That one is approved. Takes us into item 14, which is resolution number 97 of 2425. Resolution authorizing entering into a pre-development agreement with Three Amigos Apartments LLC regarding redevelopment of the property located at 636 Wisconsin Avenue.
All right, this is the old Wells Fargo building. We've worked with a couple different project developers on a couple different conceptual plans. Ultimately, in speaking with Three Amigos, they have an interest and are willing to commit to a mixed-use development on that property. They're looking at a market rate component and the county affordable rate that we adopted in May, I believe it was, that we adopted the county's affordability standards. So you'd be looking at a mixed development that would have affordable and market rate in it. Obviously, we're looking at trying to get more of that density into downtown, and that's what they're willing to do on this project. So we don't have designs or anything like that. This is a pre-development agreement. So essentially, it's commitment to the developer. They get an opportunity to expend the funds and put together a proposal, bring that back for our consideration. And then if we like it, we move forward. So no real commitment on the city side other than we're not going to work with other developers until we have a plan from them. And if we choose to move forward with them, we do. If we don't, then we don't move forward with them.
Questions or comments?
Yeah, everything is pretty clear. I just wonder in this case, actually I'm curious, in this case, do we need a bid to determine which developer or not?
What's that?
How do you decide what's the best developer in this case? Since it is just there is no real plan, right? How do you decide?
Yep. So we try to, each developer kind of has different specialties, or, there might be multiple that are willing to do that. We've went through quite a few different developers on the different sites, and we've reached out to some. Obviously, we looked at this from a commercial aspect in talking about potential commercial projects. Some of the developers we were talking with, some of them want 100% for the full 27 years of the TID. That's what they want. We've talked to numerous over housing about, if we could do affordable on there, what would that look like from a incentive standpoint? And again, we're hearing kind of the response of, well, this community gave us this, that's what you guys should give us. So, in talking to different developers to understand their willingness to participate on a site this big and at what level, and then understanding what their product mix would look like, because that's, we're trying to make sure that we're balancing project mixes throughout the community. So we know, we've got a couple different projects that are going to be kind of on the higher income side. We've got some projects that are more on the age restricted, and we've got projects that are on the low income side. So we're trying to make sure that we have a healthy balance of that. And this is a good site to kind of get that healthy mix of affordable and market rate kind of in that downtown area. So working with this group, they made it pretty clear they would be willing to do a project in that range that's kind of more in line with what we're seeing with other projects.
Thank you.
Any other discussion on this one, Alder Lefebvre?
Yeah, is there any kind of even ballpark figure about how many units we might be talking about?
We just kind of estimated on size. I want to say we're around 300, give or take. I can't remember what I have estimated in there. 180 is what we have estimated in there. So 180, and then we've got across the street, we would look at the townhomes on that property. One of the things that we've been doing with a couple of the projects is really looking at, and it was identified in our housing study, is the lack of 3-bedroom. So that's one thing. By getting these bigger projects, we can also get more 3-bedroom apartments in there. And we're trying to look at that mix of 3 bedrooms across the street, kind of more that townhome style, and then also in the development. So we're hopeful that we can get a higher percentage or a higher number count of 3-bedroom units into these larger facilities like that.
Yeah, that would be appropriate, yes.
Yes. And that's one thing a lot of the developers shy away from doing 3-bedroom. And that's one thing we've really clearly identified in our housing study was a huge need. 3 and 4-bedroom, but 4 is really hard to get.
Any other questions or comments?
I'm good.
Seeing none, we would be looking for that last motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve?
Second?
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Chair votes aye. The ayes have it. The motion passes. That one is approved.
Thank you.
Our next regularly scheduled meeting will be October 28th. And with that, we have exhausted our agenda and are looking for a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn?
Second?
We have a motion and a second. All in favor of adjournment?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Chair votes aye. The ayes have it. And the motion passes. We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.